Hey everybody, and welcome to Twin Talk, a video discussion show where twin brothers Chris and Kevin drink and draw. We're talking about comic books, movies, and all things pop culture. We are your hosts, Chris Hart,
Kevin Hart,
and today we're going to be talking about the long-awaited Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Stick around to the end of the episode to see how our drawing of Ben Affleck as Knightmare Batman came out. And if you like what you see, subscribe to the channel for more content. Just a heads up, this is going to probably be a long video. We have much to discuss on this. So we're going to start talking about our overall thoughts. Then we're going to break it down character by character. I'm going to put some timestamps in the description or comments below. So if you want to see us talking about your favorite character or you want to fast forward a little bit, just head on down to that timestamp.
It is finally here. It is now upon us. Zack Snyder's Justice League. Almost 5 years to the day with this drama between Warner Brothers, Zack Snyder, and his whole DC film franchise. It has been exhausting. And
we all look like Ben Affleck at the end of the movie.
Yeah, just disheveled. But this feels like a little bit of closure for everybody, especially the SnyderCut fans. Everybody that went online and like pushed for this hashtag release the SnyderCut. They got their way. It's kind of it's unprecedented as it really is. This is the first time this has ever happened in like cinema history that fans got a movie finished based on a hashtag in the internet and just demand for it. And the studio gave it to us. Now we have HBO Max, the streaming service, and they felt it was a good time to finally release it. They handed him $70 million, and he finished the movie.
I think it's a victory all around, even for Zack Snyder. It feels so good for him, man, to see his vision carried out, even with the tragedy of his daughter and everything. And I love the dedication of the movie to her. And it feels like a big win for us all. And if they go forward, if they decide to go forward or not, you know, who knows going forward. It seems to be getting great praise all around. Some mixed reviews. But overall, if I had to sum it up in one sentence, it's that it's not perfect, but it is much better. Much, much better.
It really is.
It's epic. Pun intended. It's a league of its own, this movie.
It's at least rewatchable.
Yeah.
The Justice
Even
League,
though it's a 4-hour movie.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm going to say, too. It's like, you know, we live in a world now. This would never come out in a theater. The movie is, 4 hours and 2 minutes? And, you know, director himself, Zack Snyder, has gone on these, like, YouTube press junkets. He gave these guidelines to watching the film the way he wants it intended. That's how we watched it upon our first watch. I followed the director's guidelines because I figured he's the one that would know how to watch the movie. And now that it's over, the event is over, you can actually go back and watch it at your own pace. That's the beauty of having a streaming service, is that now you can go back, rewatch it. You can maybe even follow the chapter breaks. Be like, oh, one night I'm going to watch chapter 1. Chapter 2, you know, and like you can go at your own pace, choose your own adventure type deal, and that's cool. That's even an option.
This didn't feel like a movie; it felt like an event. I feel like it could have, if, you know, the dedicated fans would go see this movie. I would much have rather sat there for 4 hours in this movie theater in November of 2017 than witness the
train wreck,
the monstrosity
dumpster fire
that we got out of, you know. And I don't really blame Joss Whedon either. He was given an impossible task. Even Zack Snyder, when he's like, "You want this movie to be 2 hours long?" He's like, "I can't do that." There's 6 characters, really like 2 or 3 villains, to be honest, between Steppenwolf, Darkseid, and now this whole end credit scene with Deathstroke and Lex Luthor and Joker and everything else. There is way too much to do in too short of a time. And with this breathing room that it got, it kind of was able to make it more, it's a lot to digest, but it was more able to breathe and let the characters and the stories be expanded upon. Even going into what was going to be like solo AQUAMAN films and all that, it just made so much more sense in retrospect that I wish that we sat here seeing this the first time. Even Zack Snyder said, though, he admitted, he was like, oh, Marvel, he wasn't even trying to compete. He was like, they do, you know, family, action, dramedies well. He's like, but we're going for this epic mythology that is DC. And he's true with that. Like, that is what I feel is like, Marvel's more like inspiration, whereas DC's more like iconic.
Mythical.
Yeah. It's more like gods and goddesses type deal. So, you know, I appreciate him for going for this whole epic thing, and he's definitely the guy to do it. He said it was like kind of like a Lord of the Rings thing.
I agree with that mostly. I will say, like, I get it. I get the whole vision of wanting to make it like Lord of the Rings, this giant epic with these godlike characters, because that is the difference between DC and Marvel. Marvel's the everyman, and then you relate to them, and they're funny. They're you know, you can easily get into that. DC, they're larger than life gods and monsters and all this stuff. But I will say that like DC's characters, they're the world's greatest superheroes. They need a little bit more color, a little bit more vibrance, a little bit more hope.
Yeah.
Zack Snyder's vision for the DCEU is, this movie is long. It's a better movie than what we got. It's a much better movie, but it is exhaustingly long.
It is long.
And it is a little dreary. It's like these are characters that need to inspire people to be better and like do these heroic acts and inspire hope. And I just feel like he takes that away from these characters.
It is a very adult take. Even the R rating, I don't think it was necessary. You know, there was like, just for what, Cyborg and Batman to drop an F-bomb. It didn't either make
blood,
or break.
there was some
blood, you know, some
gore.
CGI aliens getting like decapitated. So other than that, like it didn't add anything to it. But that's the thing, is you got to find a balance between this and Justice League, because that was clearly just for kids, you know. But the whole my toes hurt. I can't even explain how my toes hurt.
How was death? Itchy.
Lines like that do not belong.
Doesn't work.
It doesn't work. It doesn't land. It's not even funny.
I compare the DCEU, or whatever they're calling it these days, to being in a toxic relationship with the most beautiful woman in the world. It's like, she's gorgeous. It looks great. It's great. But like, there's no depth to it. Like, it's just one note, and like, you got to make that cut. Like, are we going to move forward? Or are we going to work on this relationship? I'm ready for what they want to do moving forward, whether it's rebooting or continuing or doing a multiverse thing where these things exist side by side. I'm down for whatever, because I just want to see DC thrive.
I like that we got a lot of stuff that we didn't see. It was a very similar styled structure of the story.
The bones are there. The basic bones.
I was actually pretty like surprised. I was like, I've seen a lot of this. I was kind of getting worried at first. But we see two new characters, vaguely, Martian Manhunter and Ryan Choi. Martian Manhunter has apparently been this general since Man of Steel.
General Swanwick. Which I was waiting for them to turn him into Martian Manhunter for a long time. I was like, that guy's perfect for the role.
Yeah, he is. He's got the voice and everything. And I loved seeing the shape-shifting. He was Martha Kent during this movie. And it seems like he has a connection to Lois. Like, he knows something that the audience knows or that they don't know yet. Why would he have that conversation with Lois? What's he been doing on Earth? How long has he been here? Obviously, since Man of Steel. He says he has a stake in this world. So has he started a family here? We don't know. But we also see Ryan Choi, a nanotech scientist, who we know is going to be the Atom. And for those that aren't familiar, he's basically DC's Ant-Man, and we've seen him with Brandon Routh, actually, who played Superman. But he plays.
He was Ray Palmer. I would prefer Ray Palmer. That's my.
I would too. Yeah.
Not that I'm like this diehard Atom fan. Yeah, it's like,
who cares?
The dude's a tic tac.
Exactly.
But he is a cool character, and I would prefer Ray Palmer. But we get Ryan Choi here in this one.
Also, we get a glimpse of the Green Lantern Corps. We see KILOWOG in this like future Knightmare death sequence. He's just laying on the ground. So I was hoping to see Hal Jordan or Jon Stewart at some point in this movie, like a cameo of that, but who knows? I'm still excited to see what they do with the Green Lantern Corps. So let's talk about Superman. Henry Cavill is Superman. I like that his death had more of an impact in this movie. It wasn't just a joke that death was itchy. He pretty much kickstarts the events of this whole movie. His scream, which was awesome to see, by the way. It was like just 8 minutes of this sonic scream going out throughout like countries and territories. He awakens the mother boxes, and that's what kicks the whole thing. But he bookends the movie. He's not in it for a long time. He doesn't have much to say or do. But from what I see, I do like that whole First Flight 2.0 sequence where he gets the black suit, which was kind of confusing to me that he chose the black suit. Like, there was no depth to that. I kind of wish that they gave us a little bit more of like, oh, it's kind of like
reason for wearing
embracing your world. I mean, I think that's what General Zod was wearing,
or like a resurrection type thing. Yeah.
Or something with death or mourning. Anything like that would have been cool to get. But I did like hearing Jonathan Kent and Jor-El's voice in the communications of the ship, like kind of Man of Steel. It brings us all the way back to that. I mean, if you have fathers like Russell Crowe and Kevin Costner,
you're gonna be a great man.
You're basically destined for greatness.
Yeah, he's not in this movie too much, but that was to be expected because of the way it was set up with him dying at the end of BVS, the death of Superman. We knew that he's gonna come back at some point, but the movie's gonna at least have him dead for the first.
You want to at least long for him a little bit.
And I was kind of hoping the way that he got resurrected or came back to life was going to be a little bit different, but it's basically the same thing. They just, robbed the grave, which is still wrong to this day.
Yeah, it's still weird.
But at least, like, it plays better. And that's what I want to say, too. Junkie XL's score in this movie is so much better than Danny Elfman's. And Danny Elfman is a great composer.
Yeah.
But
he did Batman Returns.
Yeah, he's iconic. And Spider-Man and all these different things. But he was rushed to
wet to bed.
Yeah, he was rushed to crap out, just reused, recycled music things instead of making an epic that would flow with the type of movie that was being made. So now that Junkie XL is back, it definitely makes the stakes of a lot of these scenes feel and play out better.
And that's funny, like you said, with the whole Superman's grave robbing thing. Still weird to me. Even Flash kind of like is self-aware in that moment. He's like, oh, add this to like the bucket list, you know, basically grave robbing Superman. And I think it's so funny because like at that point in the movie, we're like 2.5 hours and change into the movie of this Snyder Cut. And Bruce is like, there's no time. The world is on the line. And yet Barry, why is he taking the shovel and he's like, like, this dude has super speed. Why is he not like?
I think he said that it was just kind of like a respect thing. He wasn't gonna like.
I guess, yeah.
I think they do address it very quickly in it, but yeah, it's true. He probably could have just like with his hands dug the thing, just vibrate to the thing.
He could have took like a freaking toothbrush and like you know spec by spec done it quicker than what they were.
Also,
doing.
how long has Superman been dead that he's not decaying?
Yeah, couldn't have been long.
He's not a human though, so it's completely different.
He's
Disappointed.
built different. Cracks a neck in his bicep
when he wakes up and he like starts fighting everybody.
He's like Bizarro Superman.
Yeah, it's just kind of like I don't know what that was about. Like, did they ever explain? Was he just kind of like defending himself? He was just confused because he just
was
like,
confused,
woke up from
waking
death.
up from death. Yeah,
but I thought they were gonna like do something different with him attacking them. Maybe have Darkseid take over him or Mother Box take over Superman.
Lois is in mourning this whole movie. She's bringing cups of coffee. She quit, you know. And for Lois, her character arc to not go to work since the death of Superman, that's a big thing for Lois. If anyone knows Lois, you know. So I'm glad to see she was starting to get back into it. The world needs Lois as Martian Manhunter / Martha Kent taught her. Who knows? Clearly, she's a key in this whole franchise if they round it out. But who knows? Only time will tell.
I feel like they don't know what to do with Lois until they do that whole Knightmare movie.
Yeah.
Because she's just been like mourning and drinking coffee for the last 2 movies.
Also, maybe that's why Superman was so pissed off. Like, he came back from the grave and he's just like pissed off. He's like, where's my coffee? Yeah. Like, maybe this whole movie was just basically like a dedicated like Folgers commercial for like coffee. I love the whole injustice thing that they seem to be trying to get at. But the thing that baffles me is that we got Man of Steel and everyone's like, oh, Superman, he's too dark, he's too broody. But they want an evil Superman. Like, I don't understand it. Like, every time we get this dark Superman, everyone just seems to be dissatisfied with it. Like, oh, we want hope, we want this. But it's like, all right, man, you know, pick your poison. Which one do you want? Do you want the bright, dorky Clark Kent, which I prefer, but also it's almost like The Boys or like Brightburn. Like, there's something about the idea of evil Superman that like just seems to be a crowd pleaser. And it seems by the end of the movie, he becomes like the Superman we love and know, even though he's still wearing the black suit when he rips up on the chest. So it'll be cool to see, like, what did he see? Was it a plane falling? Was it a new threat? Brainiac hopefully entering the atmosphere? Who knows, man, if they have any plans with Henry Cavill. Because they are just wasting this dude's career.
Yeah, yeah.
Speaking of wasted careers, Ben Affleck is Batman.
Such wasted potential. Let's get into Batman. My personal favorite superhero, favorite character in all of pop culture.
He is the perfect
so much better than this.
Live adaptation of Batman. He's the Dark Knight Returns Batman. He can go toe-to-toe with this DCEU that is, like, super powerful. And that's the thing that, like, Bale's Batman... Robert Pattinson can't hold up in this universe. Yeah. So I like that Ben Affleck was able to go toe-to-toe with these like gods. He kind of reminds me of a Tony Stark character like Iron Man in the Avengers in the MCU, where he starts off on his own journey. Batman's 20 years in Gotham, and he's just seen what he's seen on the streets, but then just introducing Superman and now seeing Darkseid and all these other aliens. It reminds me so much of like Tony Stark looking at the portal and being like, I got to prepare for this. So that's a reason to get him more vehicles, more costumes, more armor. Just great toy idea.
Up the toys.
Yeah. So I was hoping to see that flesh out over this whole like Justice League, you know, universe that they were setting up. And I would have loved to see some prequels with either a Death in the Family or
his solo movie that he
Red Hood,
or even the solo movie. The script is written, so I'm about to start a hashtag release the Ben Affleck Batman
script at least.
The one thing I'll say is like there's that one scene in Batman vs Superman. It's so iconic. It's the best action sequence you're going to get from a live-action Batman. That warehouse sequence.
Fight,
it's perfection. I want more of that. And like, I just feel like there's not many memorable action sequences of Batman in this movie.
In Justice League, he's kind of like powered down a little bit.
Yes, but I do like that in this one, they do incorporate that he uses like...
the gauntlets?
Him and Alfred like use Wonder Woman's gauntlets to like... absorb the energy, kind of like Black Panther with the vibranium.
Yeah.
So that was cool that he was just like eating the alien technology. And I was like, all right, cool. Like let him hold his own because he was an absolute joke in the 2017 film.
I'm so glad he didn't say one joke in this movie.
He was not corny at all in this movie. He actually was like true to character from what they set up in BVS.
That's the thing is, as an audience, we see BVS, we see Justice League. Even though it was rushed out, they kind of just like were just farting out garbage to try and keep up with Marvel, and it didn't work. If we saw this long breathing room of these characters Batman, Aquaman, all that, it all would work out in the end. Even this journey to this Knightmare Justice League movie that would probably go back into BVS and we would all just be mind blown. And Batman, I love that his character gets kind of an arc in this one. It seems like there was more of a plan. If the plan was there that he was this dark Batman that kills in BVS and everything else, he's lost faith. This movie, he even says for once, says it to Alfred, for once I'm operating on faith, not on reason. That's an incredible line for Bruce Wayne to say, and an incredible, because characters have to undergo change.
Character arcs.
He can't just be this brooding guy, even though we all love Batman. It'd be cool to see this thing, and it even seemed like there was a little love interest between him and Diana. They kind of like hold hands a little, and like kind of like choking on their words. Like, and I love that. To me, I always loved seeing Batman, a human, keeping up with this god, Wonder Woman, which we'll get into next, but going into her thing is like she would have a good arc too over, we know that Steve Trevor, he's gone since the 40s, since the 80s. And she even says in the movie, she's like, oh, like I'm trying to learn how to move on, how to, whatever, I'm still learning. And that would be a perfect character arc of her moving on and Batman finding love, finding happiness, blah, blah, blah. And I just would love to see if they decide to go forward this expanded universe. Just don't rush, because it would be incredible.
I'd like to think that maybe we could forgive Wonder Woman for raping an unknowing victim in the 80s. That was never addressed. No consequences whatsoever.
That's the thing, is like now that we see this movie currently,
even if this movie was excellent, we have to deal with the fact that Wonder Woman 84 like exists in this universe, and it's just so bad. Like there needs to be a Kevin Feige at DC that reins in these people and says, here's the goal, here's the agenda. We got to go to ABC to get to XYZ. Because this whole like DC film universe, great actors, great cast, great directors, great costumes. The cinematography is gorgeous. The scores are amazing. But the stories are not there.
Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, she is perfection as Diana.
She's great in this.
Yeah, she's great. I love even the new Junkie XL score for her. The whole like... like it went on for so long. It was great.
The whole movie. It was
great.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but I think they might have overdid it a little bit.
It reminded me of like an Enya version of the Cranberries Zombie. In your head, zombie.
Like it was just too much, man.
I liked it though.
It was great.
I really
no,
did.
It was
like
great. It was very like Xena, Warrior Princess, and all that.
And they did have her like. They
did have the Hans Zimmer score, yeah.
And she kicks ass in this movie.
I love that whole scene. I'm still impressed with the whole gauntlets taking off the terrorist bullets, and she's like going down this whole line of people.
That whole scene plays so much better in this.
It's so good, yeah. I just think it's funny too. Like, I mean, going back, like the little girl, she's like, "I want to be like you when I grow up." And Gal Gadot says the perfect Wonder Woman line. She's like, "You could be anything you want to be," and she's got a few of those good lines throughout.
After she just murdered that terrorist.
That's what I was gonna say. Is like, they're like, "Oh, we're gonna blow up 4 city blocks or blah blah blah." There's children in here. And she saves everyone, but then she does the bracelet smash, and she just destroys this historical building, like an entire block radius. And it's just like, it was just funny to me that it was like, oh, like, okay, they were going to do 4 blocks, but 1 block's okay. I only did 1 block with the children inside.
That's the price that you, like, that's how Zack Snyder treats these characters. It's like, oh, that's the price you pay for being a scumbag. Like, if you're in the way, like, these heroes, they'll murder you. Yeah, they'll murder you. But it's because you were there.
The Amazons, man, that was the
so
one
good.
sequence in Justice League that I was like, that was incredible. And I still...
It's better in this one,
better
too.
in this one. Everything's better in this movie. But, like, that was the one scene that I was like, that was cool. I would love to see more of that. The Amazons and Themyscira was such a sick scene when Queen Hippolyta, I think her name is,
Hippolyta.
right? Hippolyta. She's like, Steppenwolf shows up and he's like, I will bathe in your fear. Like, and she's like, daughters of Themyscira, show them your fear. And they're like, we have no fear. And
that was
all
badass.
in unison with all their arrows. I was like, oh!
Yeah, that was cool.
Oh!
Ding dong, turkey
is done.
That scene is awesome, and I love how they were just like at the ready, like ready to like fire anything
in
at
unison,
this mother box that was like obviously a potential threat. And that sequence is awesome. Seeing all these like ripped, jacked women like showing their strength, and like when the two of them like hold that like temple's collapsing or whatever, and they grab it, and Hippolyta goes under, and then she like buys herself like a good 10 seconds. And then it's sad that they all died in there, but it was like, what a way to go out. About a bunch of warrior women. It was so cool.
The one thing I will say, though, is that even my brother-in-law pointed out, and you pointed out too, when Diana gets the message in the new world that Apocalypse and Darkseid and all this is happening, she like jumps down in this cave and her heels don't break. It's like, how, man? Like that defies all physics right there. I like Jason Momoa, man. I think he's a great Aquaman, you know, regardless of him having the blonde hair or not. We obviously have seen this solo Aquaman film. I loved it, thought it was great.
I'll always love that shot of him like surfing the parademon into the building. Like that's so cool to me. And then he like fixes his hair and makes sure that he looks like Rock, and it's like very of his character in this movie.
I love it.
I think Jason Momoa is a good Aquaman, and I think he's brought like that badassery that's necessary to making casual audiences love Aquaman,
making him relevant.
And I hope they move forward with Aquaman movies, because I really, really enjoyed that Aquaman solo film.
That scene is so beautifully shot, where he's guzzling booze and the waves are just crashing around him.
It's pretty. Like,
it's so good. Shirtless Momoa was always a crowd pleaser too.
I do. He
took his shirt off twice, and like even that was the one thing I didn't get about his character too. He's like bringing fish to this like Icelandic people or whatever. And when he goes in, were they like worshiping him? Because then this one girl just like takes up his thing, is like sniffing it, and is like she's like, oh, like the Wonder Woman theme again.
They do this song for him. Like I can almost guarantee there's at least an orgy a week, at least, bare minimum, one orgy a week between him and these villagers.
Yeah, and I still love, because it seems like they were figuring out the kinks. Clearly, this was in retrospect before the Aquaman solo film of what his suit would look like, how these Atlanteans would speak, move, blah, blah, blah. But I always loved his tattoos, how they kind of looked like the armor. And I love that. And his suit is like great in Aquaman with the color. That's the one thing I don't like about his suit in Justice League, is there's so little color.
That's what I'm saying to you. Like I'm okay with his suit in Justice League. It is darker and not what I would want from Aquaman. When I saw the Aquaman movie, I was very happy with what they did with his suit, because growing up as a kid, I loved the Aquaman cartoon from back in the day. I always thought Aquaman was such an underrated, underused character, and his color scheme is so great, that orange and green, and they did that in the Aquaman movie.
From it at all.
In the Aquaman movie, he finally gets that armor from the King, right? Doesn't he take on that armor, and it's like the brighter? So like that. It
found a way to make it look cool.
Good, yeah. So I'm okay with him wearing this dark armor in this movie, because it'll eventually lead to the story of him getting the look from the comics that we love.
Yeah. And in rewatch of this movie, I think it's a perfect setup for this Aquaman solo film that was to come. That sequence between him and Vulko, Willem Dafoe,
who looks like a meth addict in this movie.
Looks terrible. But like that was before the man bun in the Aquaman solo.
He's got like meth mouth. He's like maybe at best 80 pounds.
He's always got meth.
His hair's down. It's just like, you got him with that good blue stuff. I do like what they did better in the Aquaman solo film, where they actually just speak underwater, because they're Atlanteans.
They bring them up on the land, and they're like drowning them on the dry land, which I thought was cool. The parademons.
That was pretty sick. That was a great looking
dragging
shot.
them out of the water. Yeah. And they were like drowning them on dry land. I was like, that's cool how they flipped the switch on that.
That's a very good looking scene, very intimidating with the parademons.
And it looked like a Star Wars reference, that like whole like
little
purple
spider
thing that goes on the
thing.
I was like, is that a Star Wars reference? That would be sick. But
that would have been cool.
He might be in the Suicide Squad movie, which is rumored that he's the villain. So I can't wait to see him done in some sort of fashion, because he's kind of like a cool
Star Wars, like a wacky character,
off-kilter character. Yeah, I just love the way that they evolved the communication of the Atlanteans into the Aquaman solo film, because like it says like, oh, Mera's trilling or whatever. She's like talking to the guard. She's like,
that's right.
I was like, I don't like that at all. I
was
like, I can't watch a 2-hour movie of them speaking dolphin.
He was doing like a whale noise almost, right? Or
yeah. And Mera was to the Atlantean guards, and then she was like the air bubble of like the thing. Say what you will about Amber Heard and the politics and the drama off screen. She is great as Mera, and I hope that she returns.
Although one thing threw me off, she speaks in like a British accent.
Yes.
And then I don't think it was there at all in the Aquaman movie.
No. Not at all.
And she definitely did some reshoots for this Snyder Cut.
But I guess she had to commit to what she did in the original
years ago, We've reached that point in our show. Alcohol is hitting us, and it couldn't come at a perfect time, because we're going to get into Ezra Miller's Flash. I hate Ezra Miller's Flash. I hate him.
No bueno.
So bad.
No bueno. I mean, he kind of turned around for me a little bit in this movie.
No, because like
we'll talk.
The Justice League version, he's just like, brunch. What is brunch? Everything he does is so stupid. He's like, ew, gross. When he like runs into, I hate this guy, and I just killed the men. I killed the women. and the children.
Anakin Skywalker.
I can't stand. Like, this is the one major thing that Zack Snyder really
The casting so
crapped
off,
a bed.
yeah.
Casting Ezra Miller as a Flash, as Barry Allen's Flash, is so wrong.
He's more a Wally West type character. Yeah.
Even as Wally West, he's passable at best. He is mediocre at best as this character, the Flash. He does not act well as the character. He is not Barry Allen. It's just not the character.
I think that's the one scene out of this 4-hour movie that I would take out that it was so weak. Was the introduction to Barry Allen. He's like, I'm late for a very important date to a freaking dog career day or dog walker.
And isn't he a scientist in the comics? He's a scientist. He's like works at a lab, police force, and he's like
criminal justice system he's trying to get into. Even this movie, he kind of gets there, but that was such a weird scene because clearly we get Iris West a little passing by, but he's just like touching her face. He's like rubbing hot dogs all over her face.
That's
He's like petting her hair, rubbing hot dogs all over her nose and mouth. That is the one
scene I will erase. Like, that's the one scene from this movie I would just like cut it out because first of all, they have a chance to. It's a moronic scene of this like truck driver. He's driving an 18-wheeler. He's eating a hamburger. And he drops it on the floor, and instead of
next to the gas pedal,
right next to the gas pedal, like instead of pulling over, he's just like, burger good, duh. And instead of plugging Big Belly Burger from the Flash universe, it's not even that. It doesn't even say Big Belly Burger, and he just he like kills people based on this quarter pounder that he's got. Was he going to eat it again? It dropped on the floor. There's a 5-second roll, and he's just like, duh. For
this like 2 for $4 Checkers.
Unbelievable.
Burger.
So I know the sourdough's back at Burger King, but it's not worth lives. So he crashes into Iris West. She's looking at him. She drives right into this accident waiting to happen, and she's making eye contact, biting her lip. So then we see that the Flash, which I thought was cool, is that once he sees the accident happen, because he's obviously attracted to this woman, we know that they are going to have a relationship in the future as DC Comics fans. Mm-hmm. But we see that he's got these Flash like Nikes with the Flash symbol, which I thought was pretty cool.
He speeds through them. The Black Parade starts flying.
Yeah, but he like blows out of them. And if the rules applied to the shoes, he should be naked at that point.
Right.
The clothes should be blowing off. And I appreciate that when he like busts through the glass and goes and saves her. But then like Iris is crashing, and instead of being like horrified, like she's just like. And he's just like playing with her. I swear he was gonna put the hot dog in her mouth. I swear.
There's a lot of dogs in the scene. He's going to a dog walker job. There's hot dogs flying. I don't understand it. Weird.
He puts it in his pocket, but I could have sworn he was gonna put it in her mouth. I was waiting for it.
I just love the fact that Zack Snyder at one point had an upshot of this burger from the gas pedal,
fakest burger on the floor
to the driver, and his giant foreground hand. I was like, "Come on, man!" I was like, "That's got to get cut."
Yeah,
that's the one thing that should have been knick-knacked right at the movie.
Yeah, something about that scene just does not feel right.
I kind of like Barry Allen's arc throughout this movie. The one thing that made me appreciate Ezra Miller's Flash was that he's kind of like a screw up, whatever. He's late, which is funny because he's like the fastest man alive. So how could he be late? He's talking fast. He's a very fast. And I like that for someone that would be almost overwhelmed by how slow everybody else would be around him. But by far the best like live adaptation of a speedster we've ever gotten was Evan Peters, Fox's Quicksilver in the X-Men, which we got a tease in WandaVision. The way they slow-mo everything and he's kind of just like toying, like put your glasses backwards and everything else. That's kind of like
child's play.
I want to see with the Flash, especially with his character personality he has. He can make it work if you're going this funny route because a lot of the league seems to be very melodramatic, very bleak, and he would be that nice, refreshing relief of like humor and
comedic
comedy
timing,
and he would be as a speedster. It would fit the characters.
As comic fans, we know Barry Allen is more of a serious man.
He's dealing with his mother's
he's dealing
death,
with like trauma of death, and he's just a serious guy. Like, yeah, he might crack a joke here and there, but the comedy really comes from Wally West's character. And I thought he was done perfectly by Michael Rosenbaum in the Justice League cartoon. Yeah. And if that's what they're going for in this,
it would work.
It would show that Zack Snyder doesn't understand the difference between Barry Allen and Wally West. But B, it would work more if they just changed the character's name to Wally West. So I would buy him as Wally West, maybe. But for Barry Allen, I do not buy Ezra Miller as the Flash. I think it's bad casting.
But like I do like that thing. We'll get into that in a sec. But like the whole thing I do like about his character arc is that he's kind of like like his dad even says, great puns, by the way, about running in place, running in circles, being
There's cool metaphors there.
stuck in time. And that's great of what we could get in a Flashpoint movie, solo Flash movie, of him trying to undo the past, make his own future. I love those lines.
Yeah,
and the fact that he kind of hints towards that at the end of the climax of the movie, of him going in at the speed of light back in time and everything else, the consequences that might have going forward. And there's the one thing that made me change my idea about him was I did like the snack hole line, by the way. But when he's like basically going speed of light and he's like running on the cosmos and the speed force or whatever, and he's like, Dad, like he's like kind of saying like, oh, Dad, like your son was one of them, the best of the best. That was great. I loved that.
Because that was a callback to what his father said to him in prison, so it works.
Because he wants him to be great. He's like, stop dwelling on your dad. I'm holding you down. And I love that aspect of what they're trying to do with Barry Allen. Because that works, the seriousness of it.
The Flash is a cool-ass character.
But he's just like, even the way he acted, he was like, please don't ever say that again. I like that. Like he's just like he just plays it wrong. He plays it wrong.
It just makes no sense. Yeah.
Just the way he runs. Why does he look like a kid that's about to piss his pants? he's like, oh, Miss Erickson, I gotta go to the bathroom. So bad. I'm like, what is that?
I'm okay with it for the fact that but I mean, just like normal running is like.
But how does it look better on CW's Grant Gustin The Flash on a television network than this big budget, We've waited 4 years to see this movie. I thought that whole thing with The Flash was like, oh, it was rushed, it was Joss Whedon, blah, blah, blah. That's why it looks that way. No, that's how they envisioned it. And that is like baffling to me. And that makes me like very worried about the Flash solo film. I was like, I don't want to see this guy running like this anymore because it's awkward. It's hard to look at.
Weird, yeah. But
it's hard to look at.
I would buy into maybe the fact that like they're like, oh, he runs so fast that he like throws speed force. Like I would buy into that if he just like occasionally like ran. But like the way it plays out, it just looks so stupid.
Or almost like what's that Olympic thing where it's like speed skating when they have like because his helmet almost looks like that too, like that oddly shaped helmet where they have the giant skates on and they're just going round and around like NASCAR.
I think it's called speed skating.
Even his suit design, I'm still not in love with the suit design. I'll buy into the fact that like it could be upgraded now that Bruce Wayne's basically his mentor to this young kid. He's like, oh, like it's what they use for re-entry upon the atmosphere, and that was cool. Like that he would know enough of that scientific stuff that Barry Allen wouldn't know to be smart like that. And I would love to see him kind of upgrade, get a new suit in the Flashpoint movie and everything going forward because he kind of looks like a Power Ranger, and I never really liked that look on him.
I did like the scene though because it was a lot better than him like pushing around a tractor. Not a tractor, the pickup truck with the family. Dostoevsky. Like he at least had something to do in this. He rewound time. He saved Cyborg from like pulling apart the mother boxes. So he had a purpose, and it was pretty epic, honestly. So I want to see more of that. Let him tap into the Speed Force and make it as grand as epic as you can because he is a cool ass character.
He has so much potential. Yeah. Moving on to Cyborg, Ray Fisher as Cyborg, Victor Stone. Zack Snyder needs to be hired to film the next NFL Madden 2022
Just film the Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. That football sequence looked incredible.
He could take something so simple as a touchdown sequence and make it look epic.
Just slow motion, man. Just adds so much weight. Speaking of weight, I think Victor Stone, the Stones in general, Silas Stone, they carry such an emotional weight of this film. Even though it's a Justice League film, so much of it is focused on Victor Stone's Cyborg that it's almost like a Cyborg solo film. So we don't even need a solo film of Cyborg at this point. Like I know that was rumored that he was going to get his own movie.
I never wanted that.
I never really cared. Yeah, like he doesn't really need his own movie. He could be a cool like side character. And again, we've always preferred him as a Teen Titan,
man.
I would like to see him move forward as the Cyborg from the Teen Titans, where he's like happy-go-lucky. He's more like booyah, which we did get in the Whedon cut, which I kind of liked. But this one, he's kind of like Frankenstein's monster, and it was kind of like a nice, live, realistic take on what a cyborg of the digital age would be like, and I appreciate that. He's basically just like handing out stimulus checks left and right to poor people. He's changing the GameStop stonks. Like he's like that. He's super powered in this film.
They dedicate a big portion of a scene to what he's capable of, and it's pretty cool because like
it's crazy. Yeah.
The world is in his hands basically because it's just a bunch of ones and zeros. Everybody's ruled.
It's like
by
the
that.
Matrix. Yeah.
Yeah. The between your finances, politics, everything is at his fingertips. Nuclear warheads. That because like you were saying before that like I mean Zack Snyder's DC is very dreary. and you were saying that Cyborg, who's like usually a happy-go-lucky character, is more fun. But I could see why he would be pissed. Like,
yeah, no, I
he
get
died.
it.
His mom died. His dad, who was never there,
distant,
for him,
yeah, distant family,
brings him back
family.
as a monster cyborg, and like all these powers and connected to an alien technology and stuff. So I could understand why he would be pissed. But it's cool to see his emotional arc, his character development in this film. Is a lot of it was cut out of that theatrical version, so it's cool to see it put back in here. Even if it runs a little bit longer than usual, it's cool to see.
It makes sense though. Every character makes sense in this movie. Like individually, they're given like the respectable amount of time to kind of delve into this character and set up, allude to future films. And I like that. And he was still one of my favorite characters of the theatrical cut. And I was waiting to see, because in BVS they allude to like Gotham City versus Metropolis at the football game.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was waiting to see, like, I was like, oh, is that like a subtle hint towards Victor Stone's origin story of like, oh, like they said like, oh, things can get messy in Gotham tonight because like of the thing. I was like, oh, is he tied to like gangs, like gambling sharks? That would have been a cool way to have him have an accident and turn into Cyborg. But I did like the fact that like basically he had a distant father. Him and his mom got into a car accident.
It's comic accurate, yeah.
Yeah, and his father's kind of like trying to pay for the lost time of just dedicating so much to work, to science. And it really does play very well as an emotional aspect of the film. Mm-hmm. And, who knows, maybe going forward, I have no idea, because Ray Fisher kind of like dug himself into his grave with this whole Walter Hamada WB thing going forward. I love him as Cyborg, and he's great.
He is good, yeah.
And I would love to see him evolve into a happier Cyborg, but I do like him. If they do replace him, it's not that hard because half his body's CGI. And even as a Cyborg, I just think it's so funny that he's got the DJ Khaled lineup.
The dude was in a coma for how long? And he's just lined up.
Perfect edge up.
Perfect haircut.
Perfect edge up. Forward. That's his character arc, is that he finally kind of forgives his father for his mistakes, for the sacrifice that his father makes, knowing what he could be and everything else. And that he kind of accepts who he is. He's like, I love that line where he's like, I'm not broken. Mm-hmm. And he just like pulls them out.
I'm not alone. Yeah, he has a place to be now with this Justice League. Booyah.
Booyah. Steppenwolf, instant recognizable improvement. His mouth finally reacts to the dialogue that he's talking.
It's not like a 50s Godzilla movie. It's like,
but he's much better looking, more intimidating, more scary. It was
he
more
looks
of a
pretty
threat.
badass.
Yeah, he looked a threat.
Even at the time that movie came out, 2017, we were still comparing him to PS3 graphics, which
was terrible.
Which was a diss even then.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like he looked so bad in that, and his whole plot in that he was just saying mother.
He's like mother. He's just like
it just
made no sense.
There was no logic to what he was doing. This one at least fleshes it out. Yeah.
In the original movie, he just appears through this boom tube, through the mother boxes, and he's just screaming mother for 3 hours, for 2 hours, whatever it was. And in this one, we get a backstory of why he's chasing after the mother boxes. He's kind of like Darkseid's minion. Mm-hmm. He's sent on this mission. He's outcasted from Apocalypse by Darkseid because
he owes a debt.
He betrayed him.
To take him over. Yeah.
He owes a debt, and he's like, "Oh, I will regain my honor, my worth." Blah blah blah. So I like that we kind of get a little bit of backstory with this character to make somewhat a threat. I don't care. I didn't even know who Steppenwolf was even
until they announced
that he's in Justice League.
Throwaway
even
character. Then
I had to Google him, that he's a new god, and he's a part of Apocalypse and everything. Apparently Darkseid is his uncle, or he's his uncle. Mm-hmm. Who the heck knows? Who the heck cares?
I thought Steppenwolf was a bad 70s rock band.
What he is, he's literally just a precursor to Darkseid, which is all we want.
Yeah.
Is this nightmare sequence of this Justice League. But that's the thing, is if we gave it room to breathe, this franchise might grow into that thing that we want to see, like Marvel has. Avengers was just the aliens. They weren't a big
generic stuff.
Generic, yeah.
Big beam in the sky, aliens, big threat.
So that's basically what Steppenwolf is to me in the DC universe.
Giant beam in the sky, parademons, big threat.
Parademons were cool, but
they look awesome. Yeah, I just thought his armor looked sick. All that alien blades.
It's interesting looking. Yeah,
it's cool looking. Yeah, I like his armor. And again, throwaway character. Could care less about him.
That was the thing though. Was in the theatrical cut, I was like, he's not that powerful. He's just a dude. He just looks like generic. He's
just a big bad. He's just a big bad. That's it.
Looks generic just because he's giant. These 6 characters that can't fight against him without Superman. It was baffling to me.
I will say too, the climax of this movie is so much better. The fight between him and the Justice League,
way better. Yeah,
is a lot better. It's more improved. It's prolonged. The stakes feel better, and also the way he goes out, instead of just being scared and them parademons smelling fear.
and his helmet flies
bringing
off.
him into this like boom tube.
He gets decapitated.
Yeah,
it's sent back to the boom tube, and I love
which was
that.
the original plan from Zack Snyder, and it was cool because it plays out nicely. You see that each member of the League at least has a hand in defeating this character. We see Superman's beating the crap out of him, and then we see Aquaman. Aquaman stabs him with the trident. And then Wonder Woman
final blow
decapitates him, and they send him into the boom tube. And I love the shot where Darkseid is like staring back at the Justice League,
That's
like
so
okay,
good.
like like mankind, came together.
You can't beat Earth.
Yeah, they came together to defeat me once in previous years, thousands of years ago, and here's these ultra powered new gods almost, that defeated him now. And speaking of Darkseid, let's get into him. What'd you think about him as the big bad in this?
His voice is great. I just want to see a battle between Justice League and him, because that, like you said, that sequence when they're like looking at each other in the face through this boom tube, and it's just like, we're not afraid of you, stop trying to
come and get it.
Yeah, basically like the League had formed at that point. That's what I gathered from that.
I
scene.
buy into that,
and I love
them.
that. And Darkseid's kind of like, okay, and he kind of says like, oh, the anti-life equation, which I don't know what that's about. But like he's like, oh, we'll do it the old way.
He's obviously gonna go down there and try to get it himself. Figure it out.
Ray Porter's voice is awesome, and hopefully we see more of that.
I think it was Justice League Unlimited. There's a sequence where it shows Darkseid and Superman, and they're just like beating the hell out of each other.
Yeah.
And Superman basically says like, "Oh, I'm glad I'm fighting you because my whole life I've had to hold back." He ends up just letting loose on Darkseid. He's like, "Now I get to have some fun," and the two of them are just leveling the city. So I want to see that like in the live action, Superman and like Darkseid just going off on each other.
Plus, like his Omega beams were gorgeous.
They looked sick.
Gorgeous.
Yeah. That's one thing
I need
I'll
to see
say
more
too.
of that. Because he kind of feels like the Thanos of DC. Like,
Yeah.
Like that's what we're trying to get to.
They've just been rushing it. They haven't set up the time to develop that whole like arc to get to that. That's my favorite part of this movie is at the end credits
What
where
could
they
be.
build it up.
Yeah.
And I just want to see that movie of this Justice League in that like alternate future trying to fight Darkseid or an evil Superman and then like overcoming it and undoing that future. And then
it almost
I don't know.
It almost feels like a Flashpoint, Justice League Origin, like a War, Injustice. It's all of those mashed in one, and it's like it's right there. It's right there.
And you can like you see Batman and Flash and Cyborg are like teamed up with some villains.
Yeah,
So,
that's cool. You know
like,
the stakes are high.
So
then.
you know that there's at least been a Legion of Doom of some sort that they've had to put their differences aside to come together against this common threat in Darkseid. So this whole nightmare sequence at the end got me hyped. It was my favorite part of the movie, and we also knew that Jared Leto was coming back to film these scenes. But we see Ben Affleck and Jared Leto's Joker finally have some dialogue together as Batman and Joker.
Incredible. I thought it was
I thought it was good.
Incredible exchange of dialogue. It's the perfect exchange of dialogue between Batman and Joker. That's exactly what they would say to each other. Put in that situation, Batman is like literally like, he's like the Arthur Fist where he's like got to constrain himself to the fact that he's joined up with the Joker. And I love the whole homage to A Death in the Family under the Red Hood of killing Robin. Even Harley Quinn, like Batman goes back and forth with him. He's like, oh, Harley Quinn. And I love that Jared Leto's Joker had like this like intense moment. Like the acting is in the eyes, man, and he sold it for me. The way he's shaking and he's like, that Harley means something to him, even though he's just a deranged psychopath. And man, if given the right, that's what I'm saying. Like Suicide Squad, get it out of here.
Two talented actors.
Jared Leto is better in this like 4 minutes of dialogue than the entire cameo that he really starred in Suicide Squad.
I know some people are still gonna have their problems with him, but
Yeah,
because honestly, after 2008, everybody's gonna be compared to Heath Ledger's Joker, and Joaquin Phoenix's Joker was epic to me. I feel like he's my favorite Joker, honestly. Live action, it's just a different take.
Yeah, I liked his look. His look is a lot better than Suicide Squad. And I love Jared Leto's Joker. I want him to see that potential. Give us that Death in the Family, that Red Hood solo movie, prequeling and bridging this gap that we're here. I'm like, oh man, you guys are talking about so much good context. I just want to see that movie.
There's good ideas and concepts there that haven't been fully realized yet because he hasn't been given the creative freedom to actually go there yet.
Like you said, this is the first time we get a face-to-face interaction of Ben Affleck's Batman and Jared Leto's Joker, and I was captivated in this scene.
The one thing I will say, though, is about this nightmare sequence is that they brought back Joe Manganiello as Deathstroke, and he looks so awesome.
He does look great.
And he's done nothing but stand in the background. Like there's
This poor guy.
no action whatsoever. Nothing showcasing his abilities or how badass he truly is. They just bring him back.
Although they
stand
did
around in the background.
They did have that there was 3 end credit scenes in this epilogue. To be honest, we saw the first one in the first Justice League with Lex Luthor was like the League of My Own.
Yeah.
So now we kind of see Bald Lex, what he could be.
He says that he's reformed now. He's like,
he's reformed.
And he's like, I've got some mental clarity. Thank God.
For real.
They finally found the perfect cocktail to balance some things up there.
Hopefully he's the Lex that we come to know and love at this point. But he's more like the Jim Carrey's Riddler. It's so weird. It alludes to the thing that we could have seen with Ben Affleck's Batman and Joe Manganiello's Deathstroke in a solo film that was supposed to, on the
Come out
first
years
time.
ago.
But it could have been like that Arkham Origins trailer, and I would have loved that if that was kind of like a League of Assassins, two physical entities coming towards each other that have this knowledge, the strength, and everything else.
At this point, if this thing gets some traction
off the ground,
is that going to be something that gets revived? Will Ben Affleck even care about coming back?
He looks pretty shot, man. Personally
and
he's been career-wise, he's just shot. I think.
Emotionally, as a human, he's been through a lot the last couple of years. But even in that end credit scene, we see it's similar to the post credit that was in the theatrical, where Deathstroke gets on the boat and he meets with Lex, who's a much better Lex in this. Thank God, finally, and he gives him Batman's identities. He's like, oh, his name's Bruce Wayne. That's a huge thing to just drop. In a what they're calling a cul-de-sac, dead end Justice League movie here with Zack Snyder's thing. Is there plans moving forward? Are they going to build on any of these things? Or are they just going to tease everybody, be like, oh, that would have been
could have
cool.
been?
Yeah, that would have been cool. That's great. Yeah. Okay. The end. It's like
you'll have to imagine the fire.
So who knows what the hell DC's plans are?
That's what I'm saying. Forward. Is there's clearly enough support that we even got to this point with the Snyder Cut. Going forward, will we get a sequel where it's like the multiverse committed parallel universes going at the same time for those that want to see the Snyderverse and those that want to see Battinson's universe and all these other films coming out?
You can have both, honestly. That's where
why not?
That's where DC can beat Marvel.
Overall, do you think it was worth the hype after 3-4 years of waiting for this movie?
Yeah, it was worth the hype because what we got in theaters was...
It pays off.
It was garbage. It was an absolute travesty to filmmaking.
The fact that this mustache gate is over with, the fact that Henry Cavill looks normal, I don't understand how Marvel can CGI a talking tree and a talking raccoon perfectly without DC and WB figuring out a man's upper lip. It just did not look right. And finally, the fact that Henry Cavill's not like, you won't let me live, you won't let me die. Do you bleed?
His "Do you bleed" looks so weird. He's like,
do you believe? Looks awful.
It's terrible. And
it's awful. That alone was worth the price of the admission.
so yeah, we didn't pay anything for that. It was streaming. But yeah, I think it was worth the hype. I think that, like I said before, I'm very happy for the Snyders, and I'm glad it's over with. Let's move on now.
Yeah.
The Snyder Cut's done. Bury it.
Bury it.
I will say, I want a 3-hour Knightmare movie of Justice League from Zack Snyder, and I just give me that, and then I'm ready to move on. Because if that movie sucks, then they're done.
Otherwise, we'll never know. We'll never know what these plans are. They laid up endless possibilities in the epilogue of the plans between the Legion of Doom, Darkseid, and this Injustice storyline. So who knows, man. Anyways, that about wraps up today's episode of Twin Talk. Let us know what you guys think about the Snyder Cut. Was it worth the hype? Did you like it? Reboot the DCEU, or do you want a sequel? Let us know in the comments below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Comment below to join the discussion. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content. We'll see you next time. Peace!